everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Friday, March the 3rd. Race number 9 at Oaklawn Park. We conclude the card with a first level allowance. $104,000 is the purse. We're going 1 mile and a 16th on the main track. Let's take a look at this field. Your morning line favorite is a horse coming into this race in excellent form. The number 1, Jadrek, has won 2 in a row, Mike.
Yeah, coming in best form of his career for sure. We'll see if he can keep it going in what looks like a little bit of a tougher race for him, perhaps. I don't know, Dan. I felt like it was really hard to get behind anybody super strongly in this race, at least in my opinion. I don't know that I'd be looking to take short prices on anyone in this race. With that being said, though, I feel like the post-time odds could look a little bit different than these morning line odds.
Now, Jadrek, 2 starts back, came from off the pace to graduate for $50,000. Last time out, he won from on the lead. Let's see where our friends at Timeform US have him on the Timeform US pace projector. And they have him coming from off the pace this time around. No surprise, he kind of rode slow fractions over that sealed muddy track last time.
Yeah, I thought he, certainly took advantage a little bit last time. He was game to hold on at the end, though. It was another step in the right direction for him. I don't see him on the lead in this race, Dan. I don't think he has to be there.
We'll watch Jadrek's most recent race now, a $50,000 starter allowance. While the pace was not fast, it was somewhat contested. Jadrek comes off the rail turning for home, and he's going to fend off a couple of horses that dead heat for second. One of them, Mahamel, would come back to win a 2-life allowance with a very respectable 94 buyer.
Oh, yeah, that's Mahamel's getting clear now. Mahamel got very unlucky in this race not to win, but that's not to take too much away from Jadrek, who did win the race. That he just got the right ride in here, took advantage of what was offered to him early, and stayed on really gamely through the stretch. Again, he's in really good form right now. Took another step in the right direction last time. Doesn't need the lead, and is drawn really well on the inside. I mean, he's easy enough to make a case for. I just don't think I would bet him if he is in fact the favorite in this race.
The number 2 is Don't Forget. Don't Forget's a very likable horse. He's won 8 times in his career. And while he's stretching out in distance, he has won at 1 mile and a 16th on turf way back when. And if you go way back when, your lifetime formulator past performances, free, of course, with the race of the day video, you'll see that his last couple of 2-turn tries were all right as well. So I'm not that concerned about the distance.
Yeah, I don't think I am either. I don't think that's something that you have to be overly concerned with, although it is, at least worth pointing out that they very rarely go long with this horse. They've mostly kept him to sprinting. To me, all of his best races are sprinting. That doesn't mean he hasn't run well a time or two, going a little bit longer. Dan, I didn't really want him stretching out in this race. It's the first time they've gone along with him in an awful long time. He's not my kind of horse, but his best race gives him a real chance in here.
And he comes out of a pretty decent first level allowance, the runner-up coming back to win at that level with an 87 buyer speed figure. The number 3 is Flat Out Winner, and Flat Out Winner's been knocking on the door recently, albeit against weaker starter allowance horses. Last time out, a decent second behind a sharp horse that would come back to finish second in a 20,000 starter with an 85 buyer.
Yeah, I can't knock either of his last 2 performances. I didn't think he was best either time. I thought he was only second best in both of those races, but he ran well in both of those starts also. Seems like he does fine here at Oaklawn, even though he's not, the most frequent winner in the world. He's in good form right now. He shows up every time. He's going to get a good trip in this race. I could easily make a case for this horse at 10 to 1.
The number 4, Barber Road, hit the board in all 4 Kentucky Derby preps contested at Oaklawn Park in 2022, including a second behind Cyberknife in the Arkansas Derby. He did his absolute best in the Kentucky Derby. He ran a just fine 6th. The issue is we've seen him now 3 times off the layoff, and it doesn't look like he's improved off his 3-year-old form, and he still doesn't have any speed.
Yeah, that's my problem with him too, Dan. I just don't really feel like he's run that well in any of his 3 starts since he's come back from the layoff. Now, I mean, I guess you could just look at him and say he's caught wet, sealed tracks in the last 2. That's not really what he wants. You get him back over fast dirt, perhaps, and he'll really start to find himself and take a step forward. I guess that's possible. He's not going to be a great price in this race, and I don't like any of his 3 starts since he's come back from the layoff.
Maybe he'll get some pace, and he did finish ahead of three of these rivals in his most recent start. The number 5 is Cat Daddy, an 8-year-old. He's a true veteran. His recent form, though, leaves a little bit to be desired, Mike. He likes to come from off the pace, and I'm not sure he's the best closer in this race.
Yeah, right. Another horse where it feels like if he can somehow find a way to get back to, one of his really good races, he can factor here. But his recent form just has not been good. They've elected to keep him in this, this 1X allowance condition, and it's not working out so far. He was in against a few of these horses last time, and was just nowhere in that race, Dan, although he was, pretty wide all the way around the track that day.
Now, the last time we saw the number 6, Pat's Property, was late June at Churchill Downs, and he was in against a pretty good horse, I would say. His horse was Elite Power, who would come back to win a 2X at Saratoga, the Grade 2 Vosburg, the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Sprint, and then last week won the Riyadh Dirt Sprint out in Saudi Arabia. He's a champion. Pat's Property, all in all, considering he was up on the pace in that one-turn mile, didn't run badly. The problem is, he was listed as a vet scratch on December 17th, about 6 months after that race, and it took him another 2 months to come back to the races after that, so he's been off 246 days.
Yeah, that's true. I will just counter that, the negative aspects of that argument, Dan, with when this horse, he returned off of a similar layoff in December of 2021. I think it was about a month shorter of a layoff. He had also been listed as a vet scratch before coming off of that layoff, and he went right to the front on a really fast pace and pulled off a huge upset that day with an 87 buyer. So we've seen him do this before. He likes this track. He's got good speed. I think he will make the lead in here. And I'll tell you what, before they tried some really tough races prior to that layoff last summer, this horse was in great form.
So it's a huge class drop. He has speed. He's done it off the layoff in the past, and he's 15-1 on the morning line. Some things to like. The number 7 is Outlier, and Outlier is another veteran. There are plenty of them in this race. He last raced at Mahoning Valley, and he ran third in a race that didn't have a lot of pace. The 5th place horse came back to earn a 74 buyer when placing. I'm not sure what to think of those Mahoning Valley races, but this horse does have some good tactical speed.
He does, and he's also got a top race that makes him really tough in here, Dan. I really struggled with what to do with him in here because I'm with you on the Mahoning Valley stuff. I don't know what to do with those races. He was awful in that race, though. And, he's the horse who was the winner, wound up being disqualified there. He was Outlier was the horse who was, I guess, interfered with. If you want to say he was interfered with there, I still can't believe they took that horse down. Outlier did no running in that spot. But I guess his prior race was pretty good when they put him on the lead. Can he make the lead here?
That's going to be a big question, especially with the horse directly inside of him, likely to show speed. The 8 Tonka Warrior is 7-2 on the morning line, and he caught wet tracks in his last 2 races. I thought he ran pretty well 2 starts back in the slop, considering he raced 4 wide all the way around the track behind a gate-to-wire winner. Last time out, however, he was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I thought he was too. I didn't really see the excuse for him in that race, although I guess you could just say the winner of that race was just too good and better than anything that he's going to face here. Yeah. He ran fine 2 starts back, but to me, that wasn't a race where it ever looked like he was going to win. I just kind of felt like he sucked up a little bit and got second in there. And that's the best race he's ever run. I still think he's a contender in here, Dan, but another horse, I think I'd be a little reluctant to take a short price on him.
The number 9, Charter Oak, has won around 2 turns twice in his career, and he's going to stretch back out in good form after this rallying victory, going a little bit shorter earlier in the month on a wet track. Now, this pace was fast, and I think it kind of fell apart late.
Yeah, definitely did. This race is up for grabs here in mid-stretch. A lot of different horses can win, and it's going to be Charter Oak to pull off the upset here. He's off of a pretty long layoff, Dan. So you can give him some extra credit just for staying on at the end here and getting the job done. He's got to stretch out now. He's got to do it while stepping up in class. And unfortunately for him, he's going to have to run the fastest race of his life.
The number 10, Ignitus, was 3rd in the Smarty Jones here back in 2022 for Mr. Lucas, but he just hasn't panned out. He's 1 for 22 lifetime, chased to no avail last time out, going a mile and a 16th.
Yeah, just didn't really do that much last time. I actually was interested in him. I believe that was a race of the day for us on February 10th. And I actually bet this horse that day. I just felt like he was interesting, stretching back out in a race where he could maybe get a forward position, which he did get a forward position that day. But he just didn't really do that much running. I was pretty disappointed. Maybe the wet seal track is some kind of an excuse. I'll still throw him in there somewhere at a price because I do think he's better going longer, but I don't really have a ton of confidence this time.
Completing the field is the well-bred number 11, Costa Terra, for the great Steve Asmussen. We have not seen this horse since the Sunland Derby of 2022, so he's been away 341 days. He didn't do a lot of running in the Sunland Derby, and that was a race where the pace was wickedly fast, and you'd think a horse like Costa Terra, who fell far behind early, would do something more than pass a couple of tired horses in the stretch. He wasn't against a good winner. Slow down Andy came back to run 5 times, 1 win, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 1 of the thirds in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Interesting to see what we get off the layoff. Tough post position, but this horse has pedigree and he's still very lightly raced.
Yeah, those things have to be considered positives. You're, unfortunately dealing with a really long layoff here, Dan. If nothing else, Asmussen and company had a little bit of confidence in this horse as a younger horse. They ran him in some really tough races, even though it didn't really work out for them. I was never a big fan of his, early on, but certainly he could start taking steps forward at some point.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Time for our top picks. For the Friday race of the day, it's the finale at Oaklawn Park. Pat's Property going to try to repeat the pattern that resulted in, what was it, a $92 win the last time he came off the layoff. He's going to show good speed, and I'm using him as well.
Yeah, just wanted prices in this race, Dan. It feels like he's going to be a good one. It's only an advantage for him if he's able to make the lead into that first turn as well. I'd like to get out in front of this field and see what happens.
I like the fact that your Drek has recency. I like that he seems to appreciate Oaklawn. I like his versatility. What I don't like is his potential price. I'm going to use Pat's Property, and I might try to sneak in that layoff horse, Costa Terra, for Asmussen. Maybe the layoff was due to an injury, but maybe he also needed to kind of mature into himself. He seemed a little green last year. 6-10-8-4 for Mike, 1-6-11-4 for me. Nice allowance on Friday at Oaklawn Park. Best of luck.